Why is it that in a world where partnership is often praised as the ultimate achievement, some women consciously, peacefully, even joyfully, choose to live without a man? Why would someone turn away from the traditional dream, the one we see in movies, in fairy tales, in the whispered hopes of families? And maybe deeper still, what if living alone wasn't about loneliness at all, but about something much bigger? Is it really about disappointment with men? About fear? Independence? Or could it be something else altogether? Something rooted in the very evolution of human consciousness? Today, we're not just asking questions. We're peeling back the layers, gently and kindly. And maybe after watching this video, you'll start seeing life, love, and womanhood a little differently. Let's begin with the roots, long before Wi-Fi, before situationships, before even the idea of marriage as we know it. At a deep, almost cellular level, humans once lived in tribes where survival, not romance, was the glue. Relationships had practical purposes to ensure safety, food, continuity of the bloodline. Love and romance were luxuries, afterthoughts. Fast forward to today, and the world looks very different. Survival is no longer tied to needing someone by your side 24/7. Women earn, build, create, and lead. They heal, teach, protect, and raise the collective vibration of society, often solo. And when the old survival needs fall away, something sacred, something often hidden, starts to emerge. The self. Not the self that's defined in relationship to another, but the self, as Carl Jung spoke of, the deepest, truest center of being. Jung called this the individuation process. It's the path where a person becomes whole, not by fusing with another, but by fully becoming themselves. And for many women, especially today, this journey toward individuation naturally leads to a reevaluation of relationships. Not because they hate men, not because they're broken, but because they are answering a higher call, one toward wholeness, toward integration of both the inner masculine and feminine energies within themselves. You see, for generations, women have been handed invisible scripts about what a successful life should look like. Find a man. Settle down. Be chosen. But these scripts don't always align with a woman's soul journey, especially not for women sensitive to their inner world, their intuition, their dreams, their spiritual path. Carl Jung taught that the human psyche is filled with archetypes, powerful universal energies that influence us all, whether we know it or not. And one of these archetypes for women is the anima, the inner feminine spirit. But as Jung also recognized, women contain a hidden animus as well, the inner masculine. When a woman grows in consciousness, she often meets her inner animus, that powerful, protective, wise energy that once would have been projected outward onto a man. When she meets it inside herself, she realizes, I already have strength. I already have vision. I already have protection. And that changes everything. Choosing solitude, then, isn't loneliness. It's sovereignty. It's a reclaiming of power that was never truly lost, only misplaced in the labyrinth of cultural expectations. So when a woman chooses to live without a man, it might look like a rebellion from the outside. But from the inside, it's often a quiet homecoming, a spiritual rite of passage, a sacred remembering. So, if individuation is the journey toward wholeness, you might wonder, why isn't everyone on it? The truth is, it's not an easy path. Carl Jung said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. Because before we can meet the treasures inside us, we often have to meet the shadows too. For many women, choosing to live without a man isn't born from hatred, resentment, or coldness. It's born from this inner work, from confronting the hidden scripts, the unconscious wounds, the inherited stories that say, you are not whole unless someone else completes you. And here's where it gets really powerful. Jung described the shadow as the unconscious part of the psyche, the parts of ourselves we deny, repress, or are even unaware of. For centuries, women were taught to suppress parts of themselves, their ambition, their anger, their wildness, even their deep spiritual intelligence. In Jungian terms, the animus was often projected outward, onto a man, rather than being recognized within. When women start to meet their shadow, they begin to realize, I am not missing anything. I have simply forgotten who I am. But there's another layer, a softer, deeper one, that often runs beneath the surface. The mother complex. In Jung's work, the mother isn't just the literal woman who gave birth to us. It's also a symbol of the collective emotional blueprint we inherit. How we nurture ourselves, how we expect to be nurtured, how we understand dependency, love, and belonging. And here's the quiet heartbreak of it. Many women were raised with an unconscious expectation to be the nurturer of others, but not of themselves. To sacrifice, to serve, to self-abandon. Choosing to live without a man, then, becomes a way of healing this inherited wound. It's a way of learning how to mother oneself, not in a cold, harsh way, but with the deep, soft hands of compassion that maybe were never modeled before. When a woman tends to her own garden first, when she pours her energy back into herself, she transforms. She no longer seeks a man to complete her. She seeks connection that complements her, but doesn't define her. And sometimes, the soul is called to walk that path alone for a while, or maybe even for a lifetime. Not out of bitterness, but out of profound self-respect. Something else begins to happen too, something that often goes unnoticed from the outside. Many women experience a spiritual awakening through this process. They begin to feel the currents of life moving through them differently. They start questioning not just relationships, but reality itself. Is the traditional model of love still serving my evolution? What if true partnership isn't about possession, but about mutual freedom? What if solitude is a sacred teacher, not a punishment? Jung would have smiled at these questions, because to him, individuation was not about fitting into society's boxes. It was about following the thread of the true self, even when it leads into the wild unknown. So when we see a woman who chooses to live without a man, maybe we shouldn't ask, what's wrong with her? Maybe we should ask, what new world is she building inside herself? Let's step back for a second and look at the bigger picture. What if women choosing to live without men isn't just a personal choice, but part of a larger evolutionary wave? Carl Jung believed that humanity evolves not just biologically, but psychologically and spiritually. He called it the unfolding of the collective unconscious, the hidden river of symbols, archetypes, and instincts that shapes humanity across generations. And right now, there's a profound shift happening. The rise of feminine consciousness. Now, when I say feminine, I'm not talking about gender. I'm talking about the archetypal energies Jung spoke of. Intuition over intellect, being over doing, connection over domination, inner truth over outer image. For centuries, societies have been deeply skewed toward the masculine principle: action, conquest, achievement. But when women, and really all people, start honoring the feminine within themselves, something remarkable happens. The old structures start to crumble. The old myths start to lose their grip. The myth that says success is a house with a white picket fence and a traditional marriage. The myth that says you must be chosen to have worth. The myth that says solitude is shameful, and instead, something softer, yet infinitely stronger, rises up. A consciousness that says, I am whole, I am sacred, I am connected to something greater than external validation. Now here's where it gets really mind-expanding. When women live without men, by choice, not by circumstance, they're not just rejecting relationships, they're redefining them. Because think about it, if two people come together not out of need, fear, or societal pressure, but from true freedom. What kind of love is possible? Carl Jung hinted at this higher form of relationship, a sacred union where both partners have individuated, meaning they don't fuse into one another in unhealthy ways. They stay rooted in themselves, yet connected to each other. It's not about losing yourself in another. It's about standing next to someone, fully lit, fully alive, fully conscious, and choosing them again and again. This is the birth of what some call the conscious relationship, a meeting of two sovereign souls, not two broken halves. And here's the paradox. Sometimes, to be ready for that kind of love, you have to walk alone first. You have to meet your own soul in the silence. And for some women, that journey becomes so rich, so sacred, that they choose to keep walking it, even without a romantic partner. Because the love they have cultivated within themselves is no longer a desperate need. It's a radiant overflow. This personal revolution, women choosing their own wholeness, is quietly reshaping society. Every woman who chooses inner peace over societal pressure, who chooses growth over conformity, who chooses herself not out of anger, but out of deep love, is healing generations of wounds. She's teaching the next generation, by her very being, that worth is not outsourced, that love starts within, that relationships are sacred choices, not life rafts. And maybe this wave of consciousness will lead not to the destruction of relationships, but to the evolution of them. To relationships that are lighter, freer, deeper, born not from fear, but from fullness. And that is a quiet revolution that starts in the most intimate of places, the human heart. We often think of personal choices, like living without a partner, as isolated decisions. But what if they're not just personal? What if they are seeds planted in the collective soil of humanity? Each woman who chooses her own path isn't just crafting her private life. She's helping build a new collective future. Jung talked about something few people today really sit with, the participation mystique, the idea that each of us, consciously or not, affects the whole. When a woman refuses to shrink herself to fit into outdated models of love, family, or success, she quietly shifts the blueprint for everyone after her. She shows younger generations, daughters, nieces, even sons, that fulfillment doesn't come from following someone else's map. It comes from daring to draw your own. Every choice toward authenticity echoes far beyond the personal. It becomes a collective evolution. Here's something that almost no one talks about. In ancient spiritual traditions, across continents, across cultures, the path of voluntary solitude was seen as holy. Mystics, shamans, healers, priestesses, they all understood that to touch the divine, sometimes you have to step away from the noise. You have to retreat from the roles society offers you, so you can hear the quiet voice underneath it all. For many women today, living alone is not just about freedom from relationship drama. It's about creating a sanctuary for inner work. A temple built not of bricks and mortar, but of space, stillness, and conscious presence. They are reclaiming solitude not as a punishment, but as a profound and powerful spiritual technology, a way to deepen into their own wisdom, a way to reconnect to the rhythms of nature, the cosmos, the soul. And here's the deeper twist that almost no one expects. When women step into this sacred solitude, they often become channels for entirely new forms of creativity, leadership, and culture. Historically, so much female creativity has been directed outward, toward nurturing others, maintaining households, supporting systems. But when a woman reclaims her energy for herself, something astonishing can happen. New art emerges. New philosophies are born. New ways of teaching, healing, creating community quietly blossom. Many of the world's most profound spiritual and artistic movements have roots in solitary, often invisible inner journeys, walked bravely, alone, without applause. This is not retreat. This is alchemy, turning the silence of solitude into gold. for herself, and for the world. Maybe women choosing to live without men at this moment in history aren't leaving love behind. Maybe they're preparing the world for a higher form of love, one that is based not on fear, obligation, or need, but on the pure joy of sharing two full, luminous beings. Maybe they are not escaping something broken, but birthing something the world desperately needs. Relationships rooted in sovereignty, not dependency. Communities built on wholeness, not hidden wounds. A future where choosing your soul's path is celebrated, not questioned. Women living alone are not symbols of loneliness. They are architects of a deeper future. They are sacred builders of the invisible bridges humanity must one day cross, not away from each other, but toward a new, more conscious, more loving way of being together. And that is not just a private choice. That's a revolution of the spirit. If this message touched something inside you today, if it sparked a new way of seeing yourself or the world, I invite you to stay connected. Hit the like button. It lets me know that this kind of soul-deep conversation matters to you. And if you feel called to explore more journeys like this one, subscribe and be part of this growing space. A space for reflection, growth, and conscious living. See you in the next journey.